What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you yet again. 1-1 day yesterday. Obviously, not what I wanted with the Giants not quite getting there. I mean, they put themselves in a hole early in the game. Of course, Daniel Jones had one ridiculous turnover there, and I think in the earlier portion of the game, that bizarre fumble. I don't know what that was. He finally threw a touchdown pass though, which I don't think he had thrown one at home in like over a year. I I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know why he's so bad at home, but still, the Giants got themselves back in that game, and they only wound up missing the cover by like 1 point. And then I won on Miami, but they had the chance to win that game outright, and they didn't get there. They were basically hanging around in that game the whole time, losing by 7 for a lot of it, which obviously would have ended my bet there too. But they scored a tying touchdown right near the end, and then sent it. I believe it went into overtime, right? And they wound up losing in overtime by a field goal. So once it went into overtime, it was a guaranteed win for me because I was plus 6.5 on that one. I could have pushed on the 6, but it wound up being a 3-point game. So either way you took it, Miami covered the spread there. So 2-1 NFL week for me, but the 1-1 yesterday wound up being a slight loss. Whereas if Miami had just won that game outright, it would have been a slight win because I had a little bit on the money line. That's just how it goes. Let's talk about today. I'm trying to be selective again. I got one play in NHL and one play in NBA here. I know there is a Monday Night Football game, which I don't want to touch. And guess what today is, man? It's one of my favorite days of the year. It's the college basketball tip-off day where I don't get involved in the first day of college basketball, man. But I know you guys might want plays here, but I don't want to put my money on just the complete unknown like this. Look at this slate of college basketball today, man. You get college basketball all day, man. So if you like college basketball like I do, I mean, some of these matchups aren't very compelling because a lot of the bigger conference teams are playing a lot of the smaller conference teams. But even so, if you like college basketball, I mean, this is a jam-packed day of college basketball. So that's what you're going to get today. I usually wait until some scheduling situations reveal themselves to really get involved. If you were going to try to play some of these opening games, obviously I would look towards, you want to try to find like teams that are from lesser conferences that have a lot of returning starters up against teams from like bigger conferences that don't. So you have those like bigger teams are obviously going to be like the favorite in matchups like that, but they just don't have that chemistry yet, whereas that lesser team might have that chemistry. So they have the advantage that way, kind of like a sneaky play where the line might not totally be accounting for it. So you could try to look for spots like that. I might have to switch over to like doing these games are doing these shows at night, by the way, during college basketball because there's just so much to run down. Division One is all one big thing, and I try to handicap it all, even though I do wind up with most of my bets in like the bigger conference games because that's where the situations are stronger typically. Well, maybe not necessarily, but that's just where my handicapping leads me there, but we'll see what I want to do about this. And I'll probably do like a weekly college basketball Saturday show, maybe on Friday nights or something, and college football will be like ending, so there won't be that much of an overlap there if I try to do that, but we'll figure out what I want to do here. But I suppose I should have put more work into trying to handicap some of these games and maybe finding some spots here where teams are not returning a lot of starters versus teams that are. Like, I mean, we know like Tennessee, you know, like Dalton Connect is no longer there. He is in the NBA now. I forget which team is he even on in the NBA. I can't even remember. He's on the Lakers. Is that right? I don't even know where the hell he is. I don't want to guess. But so you have teams like that where like one of their best players, their best player, who's like one of the top players in college basketball, is out of there. So Tennessee might be a little bit overvalued, although they're going to be like a huge favorite at 27.5 against Gardner-Webb, and it's gone up. Gardner-Webb was one of the better teams in their conference last year, though, and they tend to be kind of towards the top of what is it, the SoCon. I think the Southern Conference is where they're at. I don't even know, but I'm just throwing out an example, like teams like Tennessee where their like best player was one of the best players in college basketball just isn't there anymore, so they're going to have, you know, maybe have to build up some new chemistry and have this new rotation in there. And Purdue as well, obviously, as Zach Edey is no longer there. And I don't know if they had anybody else leave that team because that was the team that went to the championship game last year. And I think Obviously, Zach Edey, who was one of the best players in college basketball as well, so he's not there. So you get teams like that where they might just be a little bit overranked to start the season, but they're up against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Purdue's a 21.5-point favorite in that one. I don't know. I don't want to totally speculate on this. Texas A&M CC has actually been one of the better teams in whatever conference they're in as well. They were really kind of the only threat to McNeese in that conference last year, which is the whatever that Texas conference is. I can't even remember the names of these conferences. The Southland, yeah, that's what it is. Not to be confused with the Big South or the SoCon. The Big South is actually where Gardner Webb is, I think. Whatever South, whatever. Anyway, yeah, I mean, those are just some examples. And then also you want to make sure that when you're looking at these really early college basketball games, you want to make sure that you're determining what venue it's being played in, because I don't think it's going to be the case today. I think these might all be at these teams' home arenas, but a lot of times you get like neutral site games early on. You get these weird like early season tournaments and stuff that are in random places. Oh, these teams are playing in Hawaii, or this team's playing against Chaminade. What? And you get like, I don't know. I think there are games in like the Caribbean and places and whatever. Just giving these college guys a little bit of a break, getting to play out on the beach, and then you might get situations where you got to look at like, oh, this team is going to be maybe a little bit more distracted because they get to like go down to the beach and maybe they won't focus on basketball as much. Try to figure that out as well. I also find it interesting that Alabama's starting ranked number 2 in the country, which is wild. I mean, we remember like last couple years ago or 2 years ago, they came from out of nowhere and wound up being like the top seeded team in the tournament, and obviously got knocked out during the tournament. We're probably a little bit overrated and not used to being ranked that high. And then last year they took a step back, but then they made a run in the tournament all the way to the Final Four, I believe, right, where they lost to UConn. And now we're looking at Alabama starting out number 2 to start the season. That just seems a little wild to me. But anyway, not going to speculate on too many of these games. Just some of these games are probably going to be at least a little bit interesting. Texas, Ohio State is probably that's the one game on the slate here that's actually between like two big teams and has a competitive line, where I think Texas is only like a 3-point favorite there. Because in a lot of cases, you do have like some of the big guys are playing against cupcakes early on. And those games I tend to not like to get involved in either. So, but enjoy the slate of games, man. And Texas A&M against UCF is actually probably a somewhat competitive line as well. Having to go out on the road to UCF, who's not a terrible team there, UCF. In what are they, in the American Athletic, I think? Or no, they moved to the Big 12, did they? Yeah, they're in the Big 12 now. So these conference realignments are also something you need to kind of take into account. This is just wild, man. All right, anyway, that's, college basketball. I don't have any plays there, but I figured I would just mention that it is kicking off today. And tonight I'm probably going to start handicapping and looking at tomorrow's games. And usually I don't have any plays until like a few games in, and I tend to avoid the preseason tournaments as well. But we will see. Let's go to NHL. I have one play, actually, out of these 2 games. I kind of have leans on both of these games, actually. So LA Kings at Nashville is the first game up, not the game I have a play in. Nashville's sitting at minus 135 with 75% of the tickets and 91% of the cash on the Nashville side. This one I actually lean against the Nashville side, even though they do have more of the cash, it looks like. And I'm actually, in my play, I'm actually bucking the market percentages in the other game because I just think the situation is right. But in this one, I actually like the LA side in this one more than the Nashville side. I would probably I would take a shot on the Kings money line if you wanted to play the side in this one, even though I know the Kings have the better record over the Predators. So it looks like, hey, we're getting value here, getting the underdog with the better record, right? But the public seems to not be thinking that way as they're coming in on Nashville, because Nashville's been the hotter of the 2 teams recently. And that's actually why I kind of like the Kings here. The Kings are coming off an overtime loss to the Blackhawks. So that's obviously not a great game there. They were coming off a big win over Vegas. So they were kind of in a letdown spot after beating Vegas. That's a huge win for LA. Coming off that and then playing Chicago, they probably just weren't fully focused there, and they dropped that game in overtime. Now they get to get out of there, get away from home, go on the road. So starting a road trip Usually helps you refocus, especially if you lost that last game at home. It looks like a bounce back spot and a focus spot for me, even though I know they have a bigger game up next against Minnesota and Vancouver. But Nashville's been playing decently, so it's not like they're necessarily going to overlook Nashville. And when you're coming off a loss to Chicago, and that loss can be explained, like I said, because it was a letdown spot there, I think it is a bounce back spot for the Kings. I almost decided to play this one. The Kings are going to have their lesser goalie in net, though, as Kemper. Well, actually, I don't even know who's considered to be their lesser goalie because I thought Kemper was their starter, but maybe he was hurt or something because Rittich played a lot of these games early, and I think it is going to be Rittich tonight, given Kemper a rest there, only having had yesterday off. So we'll see what they decide to do there. I don't know which goalie you would actually prefer to be in net there if you want to play LA, really, because Rittich, their goaltending tandem actually, there hasn't been that much of a distinction between the two. But on the Nashville side, I do think we're going to get Nashville's starter in Saros there because he's like a gladiator out there, basically. He plays most of their games, and he is significantly better than Wedgwood. So Saros, I do think he is going to play again with one day off there. You usually only see him not playing back-to-backs, I would say, and that was the only time he didn't play this season so far, other than the season opener. He didn't play in the second of this back-to-back here. And they won anyway against a pretty weak Columbus team, but, overtime. But anyway, Nashville, I think they're in the worst spot because they're staying at home, and they just beat Colorado, man, and that's a big win, beating one of the best teams in hockey, really, one of the best teams in the Western Conference, even though I know Colorado started off slow. Colorado is still a really good team. That's a big win, and Nashville beat them up 5-2. And they had Saros in net for that one. I do think he's going to be in net again here, though. So they are staying at home, but it looks like maybe kind of a letdown spot for them. So it looks like more of a focus spot for the Kings in that one to me. So I lean to the Kings, but I'm actually going to play the other game, and I'm going to play on the Devils, the New Jersey Devils, minus 115. The odds makers this is a real interesting line, man. The odds makers are telling you that the Devils are actually the better team in this situation, or matchup at least, as they're a road favorite at Edmonton, who were the Western Conference champs last year. That just looks bizarre, doesn't it? And I have no clue how the public is coming in on the New Jersey side at 61% and the cash on the Edmonton side at 64%. That doesn't even seem right to me, because how could the public look at this and say, oh, it's the Edmonton Oilers. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL. They made the finals last year and almost won the finals. How are they an underdog at home against a kind of middling New Jersey team? It doesn't totally make sense to me, that line, which is why I'm looking towards the New Jersey side. I'm just surprised the public is not on that side, even though New Jersey's record is slightly better, because Edmonton, I believe, started out really slow as well. Talking about slow starts there. Connor McDavid is out, though, so that is part of the reason why the line is moving like that. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I don't know how long he's been out, actually. But injured player theory doesn't really come into play as much in hockey. He missed one game so far, it looks like. Actually, no. How many games did he miss? It looks like he may have gotten hurt. Yeah, he got hurt really early on in this Columbus game. And then how many games did... let me see how many games they played after that. Because the first game after that would have been the injured player theory spot, if there really is an injured player situation in hockey. I don't think the injured player theory matters as much in hockey, because even if you have like the best player in hockey, which maybe you could say McDavid is, he's one of the best, but even if you have a guy who's that good go down, hockey has so many players going in and out of the rotation and different lines out there. It's not the same thing as like losing a quarterback who's out there every single play dictating the offense every single time. So the injured player theory matters a little bit less, but if you do want to take that into account, McDavid has now missed 2 games, actually, and he's going to be out in this game as well. It seems like he's going to return in this Nashville game on the 14th is when he's predicted to come back, at least. So McDavid is out, but even with that being the case, it's just odd that New Jersey is a favorite. Like, him being out, does that swing the line to that extent? So it almost seems like maybe you're not getting value on New Jersey, but again, like I said, it looks like such a weird line on New Jersey that I had to take notice, and the spot just really doesn't look good to me for Edmonton. They're returning home from a road trip that took them out to Detroit, Columbus, Nashville. I mean, fairly far distance-wise from Alberta, really. But then I mentioned they were coming back to their home province here with multiple days off, and I said maybe they're going to be a little bit distracted here because maybe playing Calgary here and being back in Alberta, maybe they're going to be like stopping off back at home in Edmonton and then going up to Calgary, or going down to Calgary, I should say, because Calgary's further south, I believe. Let me make sure I get my geography right there. But whatever was the case, they were not distracted in that game, and they won the game against Calgary. So now they are actually returning home, and they're on a back-to-back. So they played yesterday. They beat Calgary, who it's a big game just because it's their in-province rival at the very least. And now this is the actual return home to their home arena spot here. So, you know, as I always keep saying, the return home comes with its distractions. And I don't know if maybe they got their stuff out of the way before that Calgary game, but whatever was going on, they were not really distracted in that game. So now this might be where the distraction comes in. I mean, you're missing your best player, but he's been out for a couple of games now. Maybe you're getting a little bit even overconfident because Edmonton won their last 2 games easily without him. They beat Nashville and Calgary on the road and outscored their opponents 9-3 combined. So they haven't really needed McDavid in those games. So maybe they'll get a little bit complacent here as well. And they have a bigger game up next in 2 days on Wednesday, and a bigger game actually on Saturday, Vegas and Vancouver. Those are big Western Conference matchups, man. So they might overlook kind of middle of the road Eastern Conference opponent coming in here. So I think it's a better spot for New Jersey. And looking at the side for New Jersey here, looking at their schedule, they just lost to that same Calgary team. So again, I don't understand how the public is coming in on the New Jersey side. Like, how can they not look at this and think, wait a minute, Edmonton just crushed Calgary on the road. New Jersey just went into Calgary and they got crushed. They got shut out. So how can I not play Edmonton here? And it's basically not only pick the winner, but I'm getting Edmonton as an underdog at home. It looks so easy, in my opinion, to take Edmonton here that I think it can't be the right side, and the situation looks better for New Jersey here, and they're in a bounce-back spot now because they lost that game against Calgary. They're at 1-1 on this road trip. They had a nice win over Vancouver, though, and I think maybe that Calgary game is a letdown spot because that was a blowout win over one of the better teams in the Western Conference in their own house. They beat Vancouver 6-0. I think you get a bit fat and sassy off of that win, man, plump and gay off of that win, and then you take a setback in the next game. I think that's what happened there. And that was really a sandwich spot as well against Calgary because, I mean, think about it. You're coming off that huge win against Vancouver. Calgary is the lesser of these 3 opponents, and you got the Western Conference champions in Edmonton coming up after that. I think New Jersey got caught in a sandwich there, and this looks like it's going to be a game where New Jersey is going to show up again and bounce back from that ugly shutout loss against Calgary. So I like the spot better for New Jersey, and New Jersey didn't even play that badly in this. Well, actually, yeah, they kind of did. Actually, never mind. I was going to say, I was seeing the red, and I'm like, wait, New Jersey didn't play that bad. But yeah, they actually, they got outplayed in that game. They got outshot, out-hit. They got a lot of penalties in that game, too. So they did not have a good game. But I think they're going to bounce back here. And one of those goals was an empty net goal, at the very least, I think I just saw in there. New Jersey has multiple days off, too. They have 2 days off. So you got a team with 2 days rest against a team with no days rest in Edmonton here. So the rest edge is on New Jersey as well, though maybe that's also part of what's being factored into that line as far as why New Jersey is the favorite on the road there. Maybe the odds makers are having to factor in the rest a little bit. They usually don't factor it in enough, though. But it is a situation where New Jersey is the favorite, but it's still, if you're playing it at like -110, -115, basically just pick the winner still. I think it's the right side. So, you know, and if it's a toss-up line, I think that's good enough to take New Jersey here. So I like the spot for New Jersey. With a couple days off, probably Markstrom will be in net again. He's New Jersey's primary goaltender there, so he's probably better than Allen, and I think he probably will be in net here. And as far as Edmonton is concerned, I think they're somewhat lesser of the 2 goalies. Picard should be one of the team captains, by the way, just so he can be Captain Picard. I think Picard is going to be in net here because Skinner played yesterday, and this is a back-to-back, so I would expect Picard to be in there. He hasn't really been bad this year, though, so he hasn't lost since his first game against Chicago. They've won the other games that he's played, but they're 3-1 with him. It's a small sample size, so I don't know. And he's played against not like I don't know. He's played against Nashville twice, actually. So he's like their goaltender choice to face Nashville, apparently, for whatever reason. So Picard will be in net again in this one, I think. But all of that being taken into consideration, New Jersey, in my opinion, is the right side in this one, and that's what I'm taking. The New Jersey Devils, minus 115. Nobody messes with the Devils. Scott, what's up, man? Will, thank you, sir. Are you still commenting on all of my on all of my videos on this entire channel? Yeah, Scott. You like your women plump and gay, right? Because you can have threesomes with 2 chicks involved, and you get that thickness there. Doesn't sound like a bad thing to me. Andrew, what's up, man? Thank you. Yes, I love that. That I think that was a Jeremiah Harding sock account, by the way. That tweet that you're referencing, and he is so like butthurt about me. He can't get me out of his head, man. Maybe he's gay for me. I don't know, but he can't stop talking about me, and he lists me first ahead of Dave Smith and Clint. I'm the #1 libertarian podcaster, baby, and it's because of this show right here, Better Off Dead. I'm going to try to give you 2 winners here, man. Let's go to the NBA, where there is a decent-sized NBA card here, man, and I almost wanted to play multiple games here, but I'm limiting myself to 1 game. I'm going to try to talk about a few of these games real quickly and try to not let this video go too long here, because I do have to talk about the NFL game as well still. Bucks Cavs, I will just point out, this is a situation where it is at least road revenge on the side of the Bucks, where the Bucks blew that game for me the other night at home against this same Cavaliers team. The Bucks had the lead throughout a lot of that game. They were winning by 16 in the middle of that game and wound up losing the game right at the end, losing my bet on that one. And now you got a situation where the Bucks are on the road, and the Cavs, they're up from -4.5 to -7. It's going through the 7. So that line looks way too high. Yes, but I'll explain that in a minute. So based on the fact that the Bucks were like a 1.5 point favorite at home, it's like there's no way there should be a 7-point underdog when flipping venues, right? Obviously, that is correct. They should not be, except that the reason why this line is so high is because Giannis looks like he's going to be out in this game. Of course, that's why the line would move like this. The Bucks' star player in Giannis is probably going to be out in this game. But then again, maybe you're getting value on the Bucks now. Maybe that line's just moving too much to accommodate for Giannis being out, because he's one of the star players in basketball, so the line might over-adjust to him being out. And the Bucks, in situations like this, even when they were shorthanded, they actually didn't play that poorly in some of those like injured player situations, like in the playoffs last year when Giannis, when he was out for the first time, the Bucks tended to step it up a little bit. So I do still kind of lean to the Bucks side, just because this line keeps getting higher, and at some point it's just a bit out of control, I would say. And the Cavs just went into the Bucks' house and beat them, so it is still a quick like road revenge situation coming into play here for the Bucks. The Bucks are also without Middleton, but I think he hasn't played yet this year, so that's already been the case as far as he is concerned. Giannis, though, he just can't stay healthy, man. It sucks. Sucks for the Bucks. So those are my thoughts on that one. I don't know what else to say about that. I wouldn't mind looking towards the Lakers in their game against the Pistons. I mean, the Pistons, I believe, are on a back-to-back. I think I mentioned the Pistons were the best NBA lean, in my opinion, yesterday, and they won. I should have played it, probably. Some of my NBA leans I'm throwing out there have been good. Yeah, they won, but now they're on a back-to-back and a 3rd game in 4 days and 4th game in 6 days, where they've been zigzagging all over the place, man. At Philadelphia, back home. At Brooklyn, back home, with no time off now, off a nice upset win on the road. Even though, yeah, they're probably going to be focused when it's LeBron coming in, generally, you would think. But I just think Detroit, just all this travel, just might have them too tired out at this point, man. So I don't mind looking to the Lakers side to win this game, even though they're laying a lot of points on the road. I think it may be justified. And the Lakers are coming off a close call against Toronto, who is a pretty bad team, and the Lakers have way more rest, a couple of days off, but I think that is factored into the line as well. But the Lakers are up from 6 to 7. It's going further than that. Public's coming in on them at 86%, because of course the public is going to come in on LeBron against the Detroit Pistons, basically, in any situation. Just moved to 87% of tickets, but 98% of the cash. So I do think there are some of the like big money bets probably coming in on the Lakers side because of the situation there. And in the NBA, if you have a bad team in a bad situation, even if they're at home and they're a big underdog, a lot of times it does make sense to still lay that big road favorite price. So even though I don't tend to do it that often, there are a lot of professionals who will tell you don't shy away from like laying huge road prices in the NBA if it is a bad spot for a bad team at home, because that it will just be exacerbated. Like that bad team won't really react that well to being in that bad spot, and that better team, if they're in a better spot, will show up and actually just outplay them. So there are situations to lay big road prices in the NBA, and that may be one of them on the Lakers, although I'm not going to personally do it. What else we got going on here in the NBA? I was going to comment on a few of these. Knicks Rockets was kind of interesting because the Rockets, I believe they're coming off that big win over Dallas, right? So I was thinking, I mean, they could be in maybe a letdown spot, but I don't. Do you have a letdown spot with one of the better Eastern Conference teams coming into your house in the Knicks? Maybe not. Oh, they actually returned home and played Golden State, excuse me. So they upset Dallas, big Texas rivalry upset there. Then they returned home and lost to Golden State in overtime and played them well too. So this could be a situation where Houston may run out a bit of a bit of steam here, man. Playing against two big Western Conference foes and playing both teams really tough, putting in nice efforts in both of them, and now having to face an Eastern Conference team coming in, the Knicks, even though the Knicks are good. Like I said, Knicks have extra days off here. They're coming off an easy win over Detroit and maybe focus because they don't really have anything surrounding this game. So to me, it looks like a better spot for the Knicks than the Rockets, but the Knicks are down from 4-2 with the Rockets looking like they're getting the cash, 58% of tickets and 95% of the cash. So I don't know how to react to that really, to be honest, in that one. So kind of a tough read there. What else? And then I don't know if I want to talk about this many NBA games. It is a packed slate of NBA games. I almost wanted to play the New Orleans side. I'll just point that out because I think Portland is in a bad spot. Portland, they're coming off almost beating, well, not almost beating, but they made a furious comeback in this game against Phoenix, man. They're playing a third game in 4 days and fourth game in 6, all in different cities with 3 of them on the road. So they've had a packed schedule with a lot of travel here. So it's not the best spot for Portland travel and rest-wise. And they're coming off, like I was about to say, this game against Phoenix. They were like a 12.5 point underdog, and they were losing the game big time. And then Portland made a furious late comeback and got to within 3 late in the game. So they did not let up in that game. They played a full effort game in that game and almost were able to come back against a far superior Phoenix team there. So Portland might be running out of steam after that, man. They might not have a whole lot left in the tank here. So I think that New Orleans is in the better spot here. In New Orleans, they're coming off an ugly loss against Indiana, but they were in a letdown spot potentially. After beating Indiana, that was a pretty big win. They maybe had a letdown a bit against Atlanta, and Atlanta shot out of their minds in this game, 56.8% from the field. That's basically unsustainable. So that factored into what happened in that game. But for New Orleans, you got to look at their injury situation, man, because it's kind of an issue. Let me see if I can get back to what I was looking at there with the actual game here. Oh, I think I just had it up. Whoops. Zion Williamson may be out in this game, so that is something to look at here. He's hurt. McCollum is hurt, and he's not going to come back. It looks like Zion may come back. He's day to day right now, basically. I don't know what the hell GTD means. I thought it was DTD, day to day, but he may play. Game time decision is what that means. Basically, the same thing as day to day. So you got to watch the injury reports on this one closer to game time to see if Zion is going to play or not. But if he does play, then New Orleans, the line's going to move up on New Orleans if he does play. So maybe that means you should just like lay the points at New Orleans now and just bank on it being a bad spot for Portland and Portland not being a very good team. I mean, New Orleans, if they had Zion, the line should be a little bit higher than this because New Orleans is still the better of these two teams. Although I don't think it's significantly so, but it's decent enough, even with a couple of injuries in play there. This New Orleans team, not that bad a team, really. But things to keep in mind there. And the injury situation and uncertainty there is just kind of what keeps me away from that one a little bit there. Dallas, what do we got looking at Dallas? I don't know if I had thoughts on this one or not. I mean, they just beat Orlando, that injured Orlando team without Banchero there. Dallas is in a Bonchero. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Dallas is in a back-to-back now, although off of that. So maybe this is a spot where Indiana's going to be in a better spot here because Dallas is in the back-to-back. Indiana's coming in off of, I think, a loss, right? Yeah, they lost at that New Orleans team. Yeah, like I said, the game I just mentioned. And New Orleans has multiple days off. Indiana has multiple days off. And they lost to New Orleans. I think they were in a letdown spot off of beating Boston, man. I mean, how can you not suffer a letdown after that? Probably I should have been on New Orleans in that game. I don't know why I wasn't. I think New Orleans might have been in a bad spot, too. Maybe the over was the way to look in that one. That one probably went over, but I'm not so sure. I don't know what the line was. It was probably high. But anyway, Indiana probably in a bounce-back spot here off of that explainable loss in a letdown spot there and having multiple days off. It looks like Indiana is in the better spot. Mavs are up from 4.5 to 5. 77% of the tickets, 78% of the cash right now in Dallas, though. But I would look to fade Dallas and then Phoenix Suns and Philadelphia 76ers is worth talking about, I guess. The Suns are up from 4 to 7. I don't understand that line move. Somebody might be able to inform me why the line might have jumped that much. 65% of the tickets and 87% of the cash on the Suns. So it looks like money has come in on the Suns and jacked them up in the line from 4 to 7. But the thing about this game is this injured 76ers team, they're getting Paul George back in this game. It looks like he is going to play. So why has the line moved up on the other side on the Suns? I'm not entirely sure. Embiid is not coming back yet, but Paul George is coming back from Philadelphia. So that's what makes this game really difficult to gauge, because I was looking at this and thinking, well, maybe Philadelphia might be a way to look in this game because they're off a couple ugly losses. They're starting a road trip, so it's kind of a focus spot for Philadelphia. Phoenix, on the other hand, obviously has the way better record, but I don't know if they're that much better than Philadelphia as the records would suggest. Phoenix coming off another win, but it was a close win against Portland, though, so Phoenix might be in a situation where they're going to be focused as well because they had a kind of a close call in the end against Portland there, a game they should have won more easily, but they just took their foot off the gas, so maybe that'll focus Phoenix a little bit. But Paul George coming back in, I don't think Philly's going to gel right away with Paul George, man. He's new to the team, so I don't even think they played with him yet, right, because he was on the Clippers last year. So they have a new basically star player coming into the mix here. They're going to have to get that chemistry built up, man. It's not going to happen right away. So I think it's one of those weird, new player / reverse injured player theory spots there for Philadelphia. So I would not want to be on the Philadelphia side in that one either. It looks like a spot maybe to actually go the other way and lay the points with Phoenix, but you're not getting the best of it with the line up to 7. The game I'm actually playing is, of course, one of the games I haven't talked about yet, and the game that's last on the board there. The LA Clippers -4 is where I'm going here. Clippers up from 3.5 to 4. I just think this is a classic letdown spot. 75% of the tickets, 90% of the cash on the Clippers. So they are a little bit public because the public's still not really going to come in on the Spurs side. But I would get it before the line gets too out of control here, going up from 3.5 to 4. But the Spurs, they played 2 days ago in this one-game homestand, basically, and they upset Minnesota. Big win for the Spurs, beating Minnesota, one of the best teams in the conference. So I think they're going to be in a letdown coming off of that, playing this very unpredictable and inconsistent Clipper team here. And up next, they do have one of their in-state rivals in Houston up next. So it is possible they overlooked this sub-500 Clippers team that lost Paul George and just hasn't really been playing well, even though they still have James Harden there. And it's possible San Antonio kind of runs out of steam a little bit here off of that huge win over Minnesota as well. So I think the spot is not good for San Antonio. Not in a great spot coming off that big win. And the Clippers, they got to be in a situation where they're going to bounce back at some point. They've lost 3 straight games at home. They got to be getting a little bit angry here, but 2 of them were against Phoenix and OKC, and the Portland game was that was a game I played Portland because it was a sandwich spot, basically between Golden State and a return home spot, and Phoenix and OKC, so I thought it was a bad spot. It was. LA got caught there, and then they faced these 2 good teams. They played pretty competitively against Phoenix, maybe not quite as much against OKC, but OKC is maybe the best team in the conference. So this is a spot where I think it's like a get right spot for the Clippers, in my opinion, where they have finally they get to face a lesser team and step down in class. I mean, they haven't played anybody bad besides Portland, even though I know they lost that game because it was a sandwich spot. But this game, I don't think is a sandwich spot. I think they're going to be focused on this one. They're not traveling, and they're off a loss, even though it was to a good team. They lost by double digits, so I think this is a better spot for the Clippers here. And other than that Portland game, they've played a gauntlet, man. Phoenix twice, Golden State, Denver, and Oklahoma City. So LA is probably a little bit better than this record looks. San Antonio has not faced quite as strong a schedule so far. And looking at this, you think, wait a minute, San Antonio's 3-3, the Clippers are 2-4. Well, how is San Antonio getting points? Well, I think the public does still know the Clippers are the slightly better team, but still, I think the records, the fact that the line doesn't really match what the records are, and it's another one of those plays where the team with the better record is getting points, and it just looks a little bit strange, a little bit misleading there. And even though I know the Clippers have not been playing well at home, they've lost every game at home so far. This is a new arena for the Clippers, so the road teams coming in there have not played in this arena before. So at some point, I think that's got to be a little bit of an advantage for the Clippers. At some point, they have to get used to playing there. So I think this is a spot where the Clippers are going to show up and win this game. So that's what I'm going with there, the LA Clippers. And then Monday Night Football, trying to do this quick before I get out of here. I talked about this on my NFL show as well, and my thoughts haven't really changed on this. It's Bucks Chiefs. Line is sitting at 9.5, basically still on the Chiefs. It's actually gone down a little bit. It wasn't 9, and now it's maybe ticking back up towards the Chiefs. The Chiefs have 64% of the tickets, but 74% of the cash. So it looks like the cash disparity is on the Chiefs. I don't disagree with the Chiefs side here, but laying 9 points, 9.5 is a lot to lay with a Chiefs team that doesn't win by huge margins. I mean, this is not an offensive juggernaut Chiefs team anymore. Obviously, that hasn't been the case for a while. Now they're more of a defensive team. They're undefeated, but they win so many close games that laying 9.5, you're not going to find me doing it, but if you forced me to lean to a side, I would still have to lean that way because of the way the market looks, and they're playing a very injured Bucks team. The total's up from 45 to 45.5, 74% of the tickets, 90% of the cash, so it looks like the over is getting some traction here, even though the public's always going to come in on overs, especially when it's Baker Mayfield against Patrick Mahomes. The public's going to want to take a shot on a Monday night game on an over with two quarterbacks that they know. But again, like I said, Baker Mayfield's missing some weapons around him. Mike Evans is hurt. I don't think he's going to be back yet. Godwin out for the season, killing my fantasy team. So Baker Mayfield is going to have a little bit of a lack of weapons there. So this Bucs offense may take a bit of a step back. I mean, they're coming off a loss last week where they did take a step back and lost again to the Atlanta Falcons. So this Bucs team, I mean, that was a big divisional game too, and they do have San Francisco up next. So it's not like they're going to overlook a Monday night game at Kansas City. It's just a matter of, like, can they handle, like, all the injuries that they have and having to travel out to Arrowhead. I think it's going to be difficult, in my opinion, even though they've been pretty decent on the road so far this season. This is a tough spot, man, to go out to Arrowhead on a Monday night. And it's not going to be that cold, but I think the weather's going to be not great. It's 63 and rain slated for this game. So Tampa Bay, I mean, yeah, they're probably, I mean, when you're playing an outdoor, you're an outdoor team in Florida, you are still used to rain. So it's probably not going to have that much of an effect on them. But still, I mean, going to Kansas City is just a difficult proposition in general. And Kansas City's coming off kind of a, I don't know, ho-hum effort, I guess I would say, against the Raiders, who suck, even though that is a divisional opponent. Playing against the Raiders, it's kind of like whatever. And Kansas City won that game more easily than what it looked, although maybe because they only won by 7, maybe that'll focus them a little bit and maybe actually give you a little bit of value on Kansas City, although I don't think you're ever going to find value on Kansas City when they're laying 9.5. No. They do have Denver up next, but Denver, I mean, is showing that they're not as good as we think they are either. So I don't think Kansas City is going to overlook a Monday night game against Baker Mayfield here. So I think both teams are in a situation where they should show up. It's just a matter of Tampa just might be too injured and not really have the personnel to be able to get this done. And they do have defensive injuries as well. So as far as the over is concerned, I don't really want to do it because the Chiefs are not that really good offensive team anymore. They play good defense, so this defense might be able to slow down the Tampa offense. But on the other hand, you may actually see the offenses be able to do a little bit in this game because it's still two like pretty capable quarterbacks in this game. So I don't know. I could see the total going either way here, and I know some professionals do seem to be on the over in this one, with the total being maybe a little bit low, and maybe it's over adjusted to accommodate for the Bucs injuries. Because I mean, Baker Mayfield's still going to be able to find some targets there to throw to. And the Bucs can still like kind of run the ball as well. But if they're running the ball, that might mean it's going to chew clock and make it a lower scoring game. So it's actually tough to gauge here. And the Chiefs have kind of turned into more of a rushing attack as well, with Kareem Hunt there as well. And they play more of a defensive game as well. So very tough to read on really the side and the total in this one. But I mean, the market reads would say over and to the Chiefs. And it kind of makes sense that the over would be correlated to a team also covering a big number, even though the Chiefs are actually the better defensive team. So you'd think that a Chiefs win would actually be more correlated to an under, but for the Chiefs to cover a big number like this, it seems like that would actually have to be more correlated to an over. So it's all very difficult, but that's going to do it, man. So my two plays today are on the New Jersey Devils -115 and the LA Clippers -4. I want to get this done. I'm only 3-5 in the NBA right now. I was on a 3-1 NBA run before I lost the last two. I got to turn it around. College basketball is going to be fun. We're going to get that going. I'll start making plays shortly in college basketball. It's going to be a fun day to just enjoy some college basketball and not have any stress of having bets and just watch what happens. So enjoy those games as well. And hopefully we get back on track in both of these sports, actually, hockey and basketball. Hockey, I was 8-3, I think, at one point, and now I'm 8-5, so I want to turn it around there, too. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Have a good one, and go check out the Tower Gang podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang. I'm Tower Gang Toad, of course, on Twitter. I had some tweets blow up recently, and patreon.com/Tower Gang. You can throw us some support. You get pre-show, post-show, get to watch those live, hang out in the Telegram, submit to the mailbag, all the greatest things. And we'll be back with a Tower Gang episode Wednesday night, as usual, 9:11 p.m. Eastern. And come laugh with us and get all offended. All right, that's going to do it. Peace.